I rent this place.
Where's Monique at?
She left town for a while.
No, she didn't. Where is she?
No, she really did, I swear. I mean,
Her car's here.
I know her car's here. She has me house sitting. I have I got my renters.
You're not supposed to be here.
I am here to check the welfare because we have concern for the safety of the lady who lives here.
The officers didn't expect to find her. Not like this. Not behind the piles of laundry. Not curled up inside the chest freezer. And certainly not frozen in silence for weeks. The lid creaked as it opened, releasing a bitter, metallic cold that clung to the air. What they saw next stopped everyone in their tracks. There she was. Monique Gilbertson, a 68-year-old mother, lifeless and frozen in a place that once served as part of her daily routine. Her hands folded unnaturally. Her lips tinted blue. Her face, still as if time itself had turned to ice. And nearby, the man she once trusted was pretending not to know anything at all. But the freezer? Remembered everything. How does someone go from helping around the house to being buried inside it? The story begins quietly in Las Vegas, Nevada, a city known for its bright lights and fast pace. But in the quiet corners of the city, some people lived ordinary lives, away from casinos, away from the chaos. Monique Gilbertson, 68, wasn't the kind of woman who made headlines. She lived a modest, routine life in a single-story home on the east side of town. Her family described her as loving, independent, and deeply spiritual. The kind of woman who called to check in daily. The kind of mother who never left a text unanswered. So when Monique suddenly stopped responding to calls in early November 2024, her loved ones knew something was wrong. At first there were excuses. A friend said Monique had gone on a spiritual retreat. Another claimed she was staying elsewhere due to a home repair. But none of it added up. Monique never made decisions like that without letting someone know. After days turned to a week, her daughter filed a missing person report. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police arrived at Monique's home on November 11, 2024. On paper, nothing stood out. The exterior was clean, quiet. A few leaves blown across the porch. No broken windows. No signs of forced entry. Inside, the home was cluttered but calm. And answering the door? A man named Daniel Rausch, who identified as Jaslyn Rausch, age 37. He told officers he was house-sitting for Monique while she was away, and that she had left of her own will, possibly after an argument. He seemed nervous but not panicked. He offered a story, but not a convincing one. Detectives noticed something off. The inside of the home smelled sterile. Too clean. As if someone had recently bleached the air itself. One officer later said, "It felt like we just missed something. Like someone had cleaned up a moment too late." They didn't find Monique that day. As more time passed without a single sign of life from Monique, no texts, no calls, no bank transactions, her family became frantic. She had health issues. She needed her medications. But her pharmacy reported no refills. Her phone was silent. Her social security card hadn't been used. It was as if she'd vanished completely. That's when family members demanded a second check. On November 19th, police returned to the home. This time they brought a warrant. The front door opened slower. Rausch's demeanor had shifted. He wasn't defensive, he was strangely calm. But something still felt off. Detectives would later say the home felt staged, like it was frozen in time. Then they reached the laundry area near the back of the home. A dim, quiet utility room crowded with linens, boxes, and clutter. In the corner sat a large white chest freezer, sealed and half buried under clothes. One officer hesitated, his hand resting on the edge. "She couldn't be in there," someone whispered. But when the lid lifted, the room went cold and so did everyone inside. There she was. Monique Gilbertson, the woman who'd been missing for nearly 10 days, found curled inside her own freezer. Her body was folded unnaturally. Her skin had turned gray-blue. There were no visible wounds, but her body language, stiff, defensive, told a story of fear and pain and finality. Investigators were horrified. The freezer had been duct-taped shut at the edges. An attempt to keep smells and questions trapped inside. Nearby, officers found cleaning supplies, bleach, gloves, scented sprays. They also found something else. A bottle of fentanyl pills and a set of text messages from Rausch to an unidentified individual, discussing Monique's health, drug use and frustration with her. The media broke the story within 24 hours. Headlines read, "Woman found frozen in freezer inside her own home. Family trusted him. Then she disappeared." Las Vegas man found living with dead body for days. In communities across Las Vegas and beyond, the same question echoed. How does someone live in a home, with a body in a freezer, and pretend everything is normal? What made the crime even more chilling was how ordinary it all seemed at first. Neighbors had waved at Rausch during the week of Monique's disappearance. Packages were picked up. Lights went on and off. Nothing seemed out of place from the outside. But behind those walls, a woman was frozen in silence, while the man she once tried to help went on pretending as if nothing had happened. Before her disappearance, Monique had expressed growing tension with Daniel Rausch. She had reportedly asked him to move out, fearing his increasingly erratic behavior. But her kind heart delayed action. She believed in helping people, especially those who had nowhere to go. Rausch, who had been arrested multiple times before for drug charges and assault, was not someone Monique's family ever fully trusted. But she insisted he was turning his life around. She believed that love and patience could change people. She didn't know it would cost her life. In a black speech bubble now, the world wanted to know. How did it happen? Why didn't anyone stop it? And what other secrets were frozen in that quiet Las Vegas home? To understand the tragedy of what happened inside that quiet Las Vegas home, we need to start with Monique Gilbertson, not as a victim but as a woman. Born in 1956, Monique was a mother, a grandmother, a friend, and a deeply spiritual woman who believed in forgiveness, redemption, and second chances. Her faith wasn't just a belief system, it was how she lived. She volunteered at shelters. She counseled recovering addicts. She opened her home to those who had nowhere to go. But behind her gentle spirit was also a woman who had experienced pain and hardship. Widowed in her 50s, Monique had learned how to live alone. Her children had grown up and moved to other cities, though they remained close. She filled her days with quiet routine, gardening, cooking, reading scripture, and helping others who needed her. That's how she met Daniel Rausch. Daniel Rausch was introduced to Monique through a mutual friend from church outreach circles. Rausch was in recovery at the time, struggling with substance abuse, unemployment, and unstable housing. Monique, always the caregiver, invited him to stay temporarily in her spare room. At first, things seemed to be working. Rausch helped with chores, promised to find work, and told Monique he wanted to turn his life around. But slowly, her children began to worry. They noticed changes in her voice during phone calls. She sounded tense, evasive. She made excuses for why they couldn't visit. She brushed off concerns about Rausch, calling him a lost soul who just needed grace. But privately, she confided in a friend that she was afraid to ask him to leave. Rausch had become increasingly erratic. He argued about money. He accused her of spying on him. At one point, she told a neighbor she felt like a prisoner in her own home. Still, she waited. She hoped. She prayed. Monique's daughter, Amber, had been raising concerns about Rausch for months before her mother's disappearance. She had looked into his criminal history. She had begged her mother to ask him to leave. She offered to fly to Vegas to help. But Monique, ever the peacemaker, insisted she could handle it. "He's troubled, but he's not evil," she had once told Amber. "He just needs someone to believe in him." Those would become some of the last words Amber ever heard from her mother. When Monique went missing, the family was divided between panic and helplessness. Her sister, Sandra, said she couldn't sleep. "I just knew something had gone wrong. I felt it in my bones." Her son, Terrence, told police, "My mother wouldn't just walk away. Someone made her disappear." Her granddaughter, Lily, age 14, posted a TikTok that went viral. "If anyone sees my Nana, please tell her I love her. Please." It became painfully clear that Monique was not just missed, she was deeply loved. She was the glue in their family. The one who prayed at every meal, sent birthday cards a week early, and always answered the phone, no matter the hour. Her silence was deafening. It's still not clear exactly what day Monique Gilbertson died. There was no single gunshot, no loud scream, no crash of broken glass that sent neighbors running. Her death, investigators believe, happened slowly, quietly, and behind closed doors, in the home she once called her sanctuary. The last time anyone physically saw Monique was around November 7, 2024. A neighbor reported seeing her pulling weeds in her front garden around 10 a.m. She waved, smiled, and went back inside. It was nothing out of the ordinary. But after that, silence. No phone calls. No texts. No medical appointments. No grocery runs. Just gone. Police later confirmed that her phone stopped transmitting GPS data that evening. It never turned back on. That same night, neighbors noticed the lights in the home stayed on unusually late. Then they went dark and remained off for several days. According to later forensic and toxicology reports, Monique had a large, lethal dose of fentanyl in her system at the time of death, enough to sedate an adult elephant. But Monique had no history of drug abuse. No pain prescriptions. No need for opioids, which meant someone gave it to her. Not by accident. Not recreationally, but deliberately. Prosecutors believe that Rausch crushed and dissolved the drug into a drink or food and gave it to Monique during dinner on November 7th. He had allegedly told others he wanted to put her to sleep, so he could think clearly without her interference. She likely died in her sleep, or while losing consciousness. In the following hours, Rausch made no calls. Number 911. No attempts to revive her. Instead, police believe he wrapped Monique's body in her own bedsheets and moved it to the utility room. There, he began clearing space in the large chest freezer she used for food storage. Then, over the course of the next day, he folded her body into the freezer, pressing her legs to her chest to make her fit. He used bleach, disinfectant, and scented candles to mask the smell. He duct taped the lid shut, stacked laundry over it, and tried to make it disappear. Just like she had. Despite his efforts to cover it up, Rausch left a trail. Search history. On November 6th and 7th, someone using Monique's Wi-Fi searched for how to euthanize human painlessly. Fentanyl dose to sleep forever. Can you freeze a body to stop smell? Text messages. In encrypted messages retrieved from a backup, Rausch texted a contact. She won't be a problem anymore. I've got space now. Real peace. Voice memo. Investigators also found a deleted voice note titled Freedom Plan, in which Rausch detailed his intent to reset life, with nobody holding me back. It was a 5.5 cubic foot chest freezer, the kind you'd find in utility rooms or garages. Police later described how it had been taped shut using 2 layers of silver duct tape, and deliberately plugged into a separate extension cord, hidden behind shelving. Inside were frozen dinners, meats, and vegetables packed around Monique's body, as if to disguise it, or preserve the illusion of normalcy. She had been placed in a fetal position. Her arms tucked under her chest. A pillow beneath her head. It was intimate, disturbing, and undeniably intentional. At first glance, Monique Gilbertson's disappearance wasn't treated as suspicious. She was an older woman with some minor health conditions, and there was no evidence of forced entry or immediate violence in her home. But to her children, something felt terribly wrong. They knew her. She didn't just vanish. She didn't ignore calls. She didn't disappear without a reason. Still, police were cautious, as they often are in adult missing persons cases. There were no witnesses to an abduction. No blood. No struggle. No scream. Just absence. The home appeared quiet. Too quiet. And Daniel Jaslyn Rausch, the person now living in her home, was calm. Cooperative. A little off perhaps, but not aggressive. When officers conducted their first welfare check on November 11, 2024, Rausch answered the door quickly. He claimed Monique had gone on a spiritual retreat in Sedona, Arizona, and that she had asked him to watch over the place while she was away. He showed them around the home. There were no obvious signs of foul play. No blood. No mess. No sign of a forced exit. But detectives noted something odd. The freezer in the utility room was blocked with laundry. The entire house smelled heavily of bleach, especially the hallway and back room. Rausch had an answer for everything, too quickly, too casually. So they left. For now. Monique's cell phone activity was the first major clue. Her last outgoing message had been sent on the evening of November 7th, just hours after she was last seen. That message was short. Taking time away. Be well. We'll check in soon. But it didn't sound like her. Her daughter Amber knew it immediately. My mom would never write like that. She'd never end a message with "be well." That's not her voice. Forensics later revealed that the message was typed using a device associated with Rausch, not Monique. When detectives returned for follow-up questioning, Rausch's story had shifted slightly. This time, he claimed Monique had left because of family drama. That she needed space. That he hadn't seen her in over a week. Yet when pressed, he couldn't say which day she left. He didn't know what she wore. Couldn't recall what vehicle she left in. It was clear he was lying, but how could they prove it? Without a body, there was no crime. The freezer was sealed, taped shut, covered in laundry and plastic bags. When officers finally opened it, they were hit by a wave of cold, metal-sweet air, and the unmistakable smell of human decay, masked beneath layers of fabric and frost. There, inside, was Monique Gilbertson, curled into a fetal position, frozen solid. It wasn't just a discovery. It was a betrayal made physical. Rausch was arrested on November 22, 2024, just 3 days after the body was discovered, charged with second-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, fraudulent use of financial instruments. He was held without bail. When officers read him his rights, he said only one thing: she was gonna make me leave. I had no place to go. By the time Daniel Jaslyn Rausch sat down across from detectives in the Las Vegas interrogation room, he had already been caught. The body, the freezer, the search history, the text, the fraud. But what he hadn't revealed, what he didn't know he had exposed, was the shocking truth behind why he did it. Rausch initially insisted Monique had taken her own life, that she was tired of the world, that she had asked him to make it look clean. Detectives didn't believe it for a second, so they let him talk. And the more he spoke, the more the truth unraveled. In his taped statement, Rausch said, "She was gonna make me leave. I could feel it. She was trying to push me out. I've had to fight for everything. Every roof I had got taken from me. She wasn't going to be the next one." He then added, "I didn't want to hurt her. I just wanted her quiet, peaceful, frozen in time." Those final words sent chills through the room. Frozen in time. It wasn't a euphemism. It was literal. He hadn't just murdered Monique to escape a conversation. He had planned to keep her body frozen, not for days, for as long as he could. On January 17, 2025, the state of Nevada officially charged Daniel Jaslyn Rausch with second-degree murder, abuse of a corpse, and identity fraud. The courtroom buzzed with silent rage. In the front row, Monique's family sat shoulder to shoulder, wearing buttons with her photo and carrying the weight of weeks spent living between grief and fury. Rausch entered the courtroom shackled, wearing a jail-issued jumpsuit. He looked thinner, paler, but eerily composed. He pleaded, "Not guilty." Gasps echoed from the gallery. After only 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. The courtroom held its breath. "We, the jury, find the defendant, Daniel Rausch, guilty of second-degree murder. Additional charges: guilty of abuse of a corpse, guilty of financial identity fraud, guilty of obstruction of justice." Rausch showed no emotion. He blinked once, then sat down. During the sentencing hearing, Monique's daughter, Amber, stood before the court. "He didn't just take my mother's life. He took her peace. He stole her body, her voice, her dignity. And he tried to turn her into a lie." Judge Rebecca Grant addressed Rausch directly. "You lived beside your victim's body as if it were furniture. You lied, manipulated, and desecrated the one person who believed in your humanity. You are not a monster in myth. You are a monster in plain sight." Rausch was sentenced to life in prison with no possibility of parole for 25 years, plus 20 years for identity fraud and corpse abuse, to be served consecutively. Outside the courtroom, Monique's family embraced through tears. Her granddaughter Lily whispered, "Now Nana can rest. She's not in the cold anymore." But closure doesn't always mean healing. Amber later told reporters, "We got justice, but we'll never get her back. The hardest part is knowing she trusted him,